Welcome to Fireside Giants. My name is Zach with my co-host here, Anthony Rivardo. Today we got a really interesting segment on the line for you guys. Taking a look at 3 rookies who we think will stand out during rookie camp, which starts on Friday and extends through Sunday, May 14th to May 16th. Get a good look at these young rookies and what they're capable of doing. Just probably mostly walkthroughs, learning some basic stuff and concepts, but getting our first look at them on the football field. And I think that will eventually transfer over to the training camp and preseason, and we'll start to get an idea of who's really standing out here. But we have a couple of rookies on our mind that could end up looking really good. And we tried to leave out Kadarius Toney and Azeez Ojulari in this scenario because we all know that they'll probably be the standout guys. We wanted to take a look at some other ones that people might be sleeping on, guys that have a lot of potential that, maybe are being overlooked a little bit, and some position battles that are going to ensue because of these players. So I'm excited to talk about that too. But my friends, once at the fireside, always at the fireside. You know how it is here at Fireside Giants. We got you guys with elite level content all the time. We got clips running throughout this about the players and some good stuff that we can find off the internet, so you guys can watch along as we break down some of these athletes and what they're capable of accomplishing at this NFL level. But before we dive into these 3 players, Anthony, how are you doing today, my friend?
I'm doing real good because I am really excited with the Giants 2021 rookie class. I love what the Giants did in the NFL draft. Love the trade down. Love the first 2 selections. Kadarius Toney, I loved him at 20, and I loved Azeez Ojulari at 50. And then 3rd round, they went Aaron Robinson, another guy who I'm really high on, slot cornerback out of UCF. And of course, there's a few other guys, Eliah Smith. And then we're going to even discuss one of the undrafted free agents that they landed this offseason period. And I think that the Giants did a really good job bringing in a nice crop of young talent with their 2021 draft class. And I'm excited to see minicamp kick off tomorrow. We have some rookies signing their contracts today, officially becoming members of the New York Giants. Azeez Ojulari, Gary Brightwell, and Rodarius Williams all officially signed their contracts today. So that's going to be exciting. We're going to learn their numbers. Eliah Smith is wearing number 58. Shout out Carl Banks. That's a pretty interesting one right there. And I'm excited to see what Kadarius Toney wears. I think we'll find that out as minicamp starts. We'll see what number he's going to get. I want to get my Kadarius Toney jersey in as soon as possible because it's literally a Toney jersey, and people call me Tony. So when I walk around with a jersey on the back that says Toney, I think that'll be pretty cool. So I'm excited for that. Excited for minicamp. We're going to see clips on Twitter all day from guys like Art Stapleton and the rest of the beat writers. We're going to be there, getting some clips of all of the rookies practicing, and I'm excited for that because, like I said, this is a really nice rookie class. Can't wait to see them hit the field, and that's happening really, really soon.
Yeah, man, I just envision Kadarius Toney. I know number 1 is retired, but having that number 1 on his jersey would be freaking awesome. Sterling Shepard's at 3 now, but I imagine Toney will probably try to stick with 17. I'm not sure if it's taken yet, but for the most part, that'd be a pretty sick number to have. Number 1 would be awesome, but it's not going to happen, so we'll see how these numbers roll out. I know that Eliah Smith has 58, so he has Carl Banks' number, and I think Gary Brightwell has 46, if I'm not mistaken. 46 or 43. So, they're starting to get their numbers rolled out. I'm pretty excited to see how this progresses. I think, it's 43 for Brightwell. So, 58 for Ellerson, 43 for Brightwell. But the 3 guys we want to focus on today are really special talents. And I think that they actually can have an impact in year 1. One of them is underrated. I think, you guys will be curious to hear about him. The first one we're going to talk about is Eliah Smith out of Northern Iowa. We know what Eliah Smith brings to the table. The guy is a lanky, he's long. He put on 60 pounds of weight in 2016 because he came in at like 190 pounds. Now he's 255. So he really put on some muscle mass. He's a big guy now, but he's also pretty thin and skinny, which aids him in one category, speed. And Dave Gettleman said it, speed kills. And I think he even meant it on the offense, or the defensive line rather, this upcoming season. They want to have a couple options there to see who rises to the occasion. I personally don't feel overly confident in Lorenzo Carter, Ocean Eximitas, and Cam Brown and Carter Coughlin. I have no idea what they're going to produce next year, especially with two of the starters coming off serious injuries, a labrum tear and a torn Achilles. So who knows really what they're going to produce? Having a couple more players that can, maybe rise to the occasion and challenge these other alternatives is a positive thing. And let me read you off Eliah Smith's statistics from 2019. They're going to blow your mind. So the guy's 6'6", 252 pounds. In 2019, now listen very closely because I did not understand this until after I read it, and I was like, this is one season's worth of stats? This looks like 2 years worth of statistics for a player. In 2019, Ellerson Smith totaled 14 sacks, 14 quarterback hurries, 21.5 tackles for a loss, 5 forced fumbles, 2 blocked kicks, and 64 total tackles. That sounds like the Giants' entire defensive statistics from 4 years ago when they absolutely sucked. So now you have a player coming in who has a ton of upside. And I love a couple things about him. One of them is his speed off the line of scrimmage. Players like Ocean Ximenez, you watch them, they're kind of a tad late sometimes. They're just a fraction of a second, like just not enough speed, not enough reaction timing. Ellerson Smith has that reaction timing. And against heavier offensive linemen, he might be able to exploit that. He might be able to get by them, create some leverage with that speed. Now, adding a bit more strength and power to his game is something that I would like to see in the future, so we can transition that speed to power and really utilize a bull rush if he needs to against some of these bigger guys. But right now, he's more of a speed guy. He's going to try and use those quick twitch abilities to jump inside or really get around the edge and use some of that bend that he does have. I do like him as a prospect. He finished his career with 32.5 tackles for loss, 22 sacks, and 16 quarterback hurries. He's very good at diagnosing running plays, so when there is an opportunity for him to shoot a gap and go into the backfield, he gets there pretty quickly, and he's skinny enough. He can get skinny and get through those gaps without maybe being touched too much, not being blocked entirely. He can slip through, and I think that's a sign of a pretty good edge defender, is being able to do that. Sometimes that over-aggression can come back to bite you in the butt, which is what we talked about with Jalen Phillips. He had that same ability to get into the backfield very quickly, but sometimes being over-aggressive, if you miss that jump, if you miss that ball carrier when you get into the backfield, it can turn into a big gain. So that's something to be aware of. I do know Ellerson Smith is a very aggressive defender, but he's very small. He's going to get overwhelmed by some bigger, stronger offensive linemen. That's going to be his primary weakness and where he needs to grow. Just getting a bit more size and upper body strength. Because right now, they see he has like toothpicks for legs, which isn't very convincing. But I think he's a player to keep an eye on, especially as a rotational pass rusher to start. I think Azeez Ojulari will end up being a day one starter. But the other side of that line, who really knows who that outside linebacker will be? I think Ellerson Smith has as good of a chance as any of them to end up getting a significant amount of snaps if he can compete with Carter and Ximenez, Anthony. So when you're looking at Ellerson Smith, do you see him as more of a special teams guy to start his career? Or do you see him really stealing snaps away from some of those bigger names that are on the roster who we are familiar with?
I think Ellerson Smith has a chance to compete as a rotational pass rusher. I think he's really, really quality depth because I think that he is a good pass rusher. He's just very undersized and needs to learn how to adjust to the NFL level. He played at a really small school, faced easy competition, and dominated that competition, as Alex mentioned. But the Giants found a way to get all of their depth pieces on the field at some point or another last season. We did struggle with a lot of injuries on our edge rushers, which caused guys like Cam Brown, Carter Coughlin, these late 7th round, 6th round picks to get on the field and play significant playing time and impress. So there's a chance that we see Ellerson Smith get out there at some point, but for the most part, I think he's going to be quality depth, and I think he's going to be a player that actually has more of an impact in practice than anything because he is a good player. He is hard for offensive linemen to defend, and I think iron sharpens iron, right? He's a good practice piece that you can use. Lanky, quick, use him on the offensive lineman in practice and have him really make an impact behind the scenes. I think that's what he does. And then on the field, on game days, I think Ellerson Smith actually makes an impact this season as a rookie on special teams. I think that he is going to be a great special teamer for the Giants because when you look at that length, that lankiness that he has, how long his arms are, the fact that he blocked 2 kicks in college, why can't he do that in the NFL? I think that he absolutely can. I think you're going to see him, on the front line against those field goals, getting his long hands up there and trying to block kicks. And I think at some point in his career, he'll block a few kicks. And I think that's where he makes his impact. I think this was for the Giants. They looked at Ellerson Smith. They said, okay, we met him down at the Senior Bowl. We really liked the player and person. He showed a lot of the Senior Bowl as a pass rusher, but we see so much potential in him making an impact on special teams, doing the things that we don't think we have players on the roster capable of doing right now on the special teams that facet of the game. So to me, Ellerson Smith, perfect special teams player, and I think that's where he fits in day one. In terms of that rookie minicamp, I'm just excited to see where does he work. What coaches are keying in on him? Is he working more with the defensive line coaches? Are they, expecting to make him more of a 4-point stance guy, 3-point stance guy, hand in the dirt guy? Or are they going to have him work with the linebackers, get him standing up in a 2-point stance? I'm interested to see that in the minicamp and really just see how fluid is he. Because he looks fluid on the on film, and he looks fluid at the Senior Bowl. Looks like a quick guy, but he's really lanky, he's really skinny. So I'm curious to see at minicamp just how is he moving, how is he looking against, NFL players, and I think that's going to be exciting to see. But like I said, I think this is a perfect find for the Giants in the later rounds to be a special teams player.
Yeah, Anthony, you're going to hate me for this, but he kind of reminds me of the wacky inflatable arm flailing tube man. Just that really lanky, really lanky, long. He's just like wiggly. He's just like wiggling around. But if the wacky inflatable arm flailing tube man was a superior athlete, maybe they'd be the same. But I'll tell you what, Eliah Smith, pretty outstanding athlete, had the highest vertical of any defensive end in the 2021 draft class at 41.5 inches. Tell me the wacky inflatable arm flailing tube man can do that, and then I'll be impressed. But for now, Eliah Smith, another Senior Bowl guy. We know the Giants love their Senior Bowl guys, so that's one that stands out. Obviously they had a good eye on him. And he's just his relative athletic score, 9.72 out of 10. He's a superior athlete. He had a 4.78 40-yard dash. The guy is fast as hell. I think he fits the outside linebacker role to perfection, honestly, because I think they want him to be able to drop back in coverage a little bit, kind of how Carter Coughlin did last year at times. But I think Eliah Smith is quicker. He diagnoses plays really well, so he can actually be a little bit more proficient in that category. But I do like him a lot. I think that he has some solid strength for a guy that's kind of skinny and lanky, but also just incredible speed. And that's what excites me the most about him, that speed and aggressive style of play. The guy was an all-state, player coming out of Minneapolis high school, first team all-state rather. So he has some talent to him. Kind of an underrated player. I think he's going to end up having a couple of good snaps and good reps for the Giants this year, maybe a couple sacks every now and then. But I wouldn't be surprised to see him take advantage of some good matchups. He's a mismatch guy, you know what I mean? Like, he is someone that you target a specific offensive tackle and you say, okay, this guy is slow, he's heavy, he lacks this. This is Eliah Smith's exact matchup. This is where we want him to this is the type of player we want him to dominate, because he's fast, quick, agile. He can take advantage of bigger, more heavy-hitting offensive tackles. So that's curious to me. I wonder how they will utilize him as a mismatch at the NFL level. But let's jump over to the next guy on our list, and that is Aaron Robinson out of UCF. Anthony and I are big fans of Aaron Robinson. We spoke to his teammate during the draft process, Tay Gowan, and Robinson is a very interesting nickel corner because he is a very, very man press trait attributed kind of defensive back. And that fits exactly into the Patrick Graham mold that he's trying to establish moving forward. It is clear that the Giants want to go more with man coverage moving forward instead of zone coverage like they did last year. They got Adoree Jackson, who's a very aggressive man coverage corner, Aaron Robinson, who's a very aggressive nickel corner out of UCF, and they already have Darnay Holmes, who's another solid, aggressive cornerback, and then James Bradbury is more of a finesse guy, but more than capable of manning up in coverage. So I think they're trying to go more to this cover one roots that Patrick Graham likes to utilize, and it allows him to get more creative with their blitz packages. The cover one specifically, when he was with Miami, he played cover one 50% of the time, which is an absolutely insane percentage of snaps to be playing cover one. That's a run-stopping formation, but also a blitzing formation. So you're relying on your corners to get it done in coverage, and you have one deep safety, and you're using those guys in the box to get creative and blitz and utilize stunts and just do all types of crazy things, spies and whatnot. They can get really creative with this defense next season now that they have gotten Patrick Graham the pieces that he desires. And Aaron Robinson, I would not be surprised if there was a position battle at nickel corner, because Darnay Holmes, while I do think is going to be a great player, adding competition is never a bad thing. It always brings the best out of guys, and he didn't really have any competition last year. Xavier McKinney filled in for him when he went down, which ended up being a disaster. So I think that having Aaron Robinson competing with Darnay Holmes is going to bring the best out of Darnay, who I think will end up being the starter. But Robinson, another very physical guy who can be a plug and play on any other team, is worth it. And he has the ability to be fantastic. This is what Dave Gettleman said about him. The value we had on Aaron, I just didn't want to see sit and wait. He said he's a press corner, and he really fits what we do and who we want to be on defense. So I think when it comes to Robinson, really great player, great prospect who should not be discounted. Anthony, what do you think about Robinson? How do you think he's going to make an impact on this team on day one?
Well, you got to keep in mind a lot of players or a lot of analysts and scouts said that Aaron Robinson had a round 2 grade, and a lot of them expected him to go in the second round. Giants made that move up to get him in round 3. They didn't want him to get selected by a division rival, and I think that was a wise move by them. They didn't give up much to do it. Moved up, got Aaron Robinson, and I think that he's going to be your starting slot cornerback by the end of the season. There's probably going to be a rotation with him and Darnay, but there's a difference between his playing style and Darnay's playing style. Darnay is very quick and speedy. He's not really an in-your-face bump and run kind of guy. Darnay is kind of just reactive, instinctive. He sees the guy move, he moves with him, and then he jumps on the ball when it's open. But I think Aaron Robinson's different because he's going to get in the wide receiver's face. He's going to move him around. He's going to push him. He's going to say, you're going this way, not that way. That's kind of Aaron Robinson's MO. He's physical. He's a physical corner, and he's got the ability to play on the outside as well. Another guy that, I was listening to Jim Nagy, the guy who, runs the Senior Bowl, was talking about Aaron Robinson and saying, I think that he's got the ability to play inside and outside because he's so physical, and Aaron Robinson really is that physical inside-outside corner. He's got that versatility, that ability to do both for the Giants on defense. And I think, when they say that they're trying to get back to a man coverage-based defense, this is that move. Aaron Robinson gives them the ability to do that. I think Darnay Holmes was really good for them last season because he helped them a lot in zone coverage because he is instinctive and he's quick. So he's able to sit there in that zone and read and react, and he didn't let up a single touchdown in coverage last year, which was really cool. Good for Darnay, and I still really like Darnay and think he's going to get significant playing time because he's a talented player, so he'll see time on the field. But Aaron Robinson is going to help the Giants when they're in their man-to-man packages, when they want to play man-to-man defense and press man. That's Aaron Robinson's strength. That's his strong suit. He gets in people's faces. He's got quick, fluid hips and a lot of physicality. And once the ball gets in his hand, as you've seen in the past, he can take it to the house. He did that in college a couple times. So I like Aaron Robinson a whole lot. I think he was a really good pick there, and I'm excited to see just how he fits into this Giants defense, but I'm pretty sure it's going to be as that press man slot corner. And, that's kind of a thing, right? A press man slot corner isn't necessarily a common thing to have, because usually you get guys, you put them in the slot because they're not good in press coverage, right? So the Giants have James Bradbury, who's great in press coverage. Now they have Adoree Jackson, who's also great in press coverage. Last year, they had Isaac Yiadom, not so good in press coverage, but they fixed that with Adoree Jackson. Then they were like, okay, both of our outside corners are good in press man now. Shouldn't we get our slot cornerback position fixed as well? They looked at that. They said, okay, Darnay, great player, not good in press man. Let's find a press man slot corner, which again is rare because usually you put your guys in the slot who can't play in press coverage. But Aaron Robinson can, and I think that's going to provide the Giants with a lot of stability when they run those cover 1, cover 0 blitzes. I think that's where you really see his impact made on the Giants defense with the press man out of the slot. So I like Aaron Robinson a lot. I think that was a really, really good selection in the 3rd round there. A guy who is really good in man coverage. I'll throw out some stats. He had 123 snaps in man coverage in 2020. He only was targeted 18 times, 7 receptions, had 3 pass breakups, and only 96 yards. So pretty good stuff right there from him in man coverage. He only missed 2 tackles in 2020 as well, with a 4.8% missed tackle rate. So really, really nice stuff. We know that the Giants value physical corners that can make the tackle, and Aaron Robinson is one of those guys that can make the tackles. So really, really like to see that, and think he's going to have a pretty solid impact for the Giants as early as his rookie season.
Yeah, I agree with you completely. That's actually a really interesting statistic as well in terms of the man coverage usage. And Darnay Holmes' lone interception last year was in zone coverage against Seattle. It was a tipped ball by Tate Crowder, good timing, right place, right time. He broke on the ball, and it was, he has good instincts in that way. So I think the Giants can get pretty creative with those 2 nickel corners. And, I'll tell you what, to wrap up what Aaron Robinson, what the coaches said about him, this is essentially what the director of college scouting, Chris Pettit, had to say about Aaron Robinson. He said, I was sitting there through the pandemic, threw on the UCF tape, imagine UFC tape, UCF tape and his instincts, his toughness and his tackling jumped out to me. So clearly they liked something about him, his physicality, his tackling, his toughness. He can stop the run. He's not afraid to go up and make a tackle, and that stood out to them. And here's what Joe Judge said. And this is also a really interesting thing to me because it really proves they're not just looking at talent here. They're looking at character and personality and how well these guys are going to mesh with their current players in the roster. He said, this guy's got a good personality. He really lights it up. On the field, when he makes a play, his teammates immediately sprint to him. You can see he has a bond with his teammates. And I think that's kind of also what they're going for. They want guys that are going to elevate the players around them. They want guys who are going to make the defense better, more proficient, efficient, productive. And I think Aaron Robinson is one of those guys. Just like Darnay Holmes, they're natural born leaders. They spark everybody around them, like Jabril Peppers. That energy they bring is contagious. So Aaron Robinson, I see him also standing out during camp, and I'm excited to watch him and see this position battle unfold between him and Darnay Holmes. So really excited about that. And the last player that we have on the list is actually an undrafted free agent, Brett Hedgy out of Florida. This is a guy who really could end up being a Nick Gates-esque like steal at a UDFA level. Of course, nobody knows. He's an undrafted free agent for a reason, and I think that primary reason is that he dealt with a ton of injuries during his career, coming out of high school to his first few years with Florida. Hand injuries and whatnot, and I think that really derailed his career to a degree. But he's got good size. He has the tangible traits that you look for in an interior lineman. He has a ton of experience at center and a ton of experience at guard. He's a 6'4", 310-pound offensive lineman. And I think this is actually a really good landing spot for him with the Giants because they love their hog mollies. They love those physical guys who can go up and make plays and are aggressive. And they'll drive in blocks. We'll play a clip on YouTube that you'll see. Pretty impressive stuff. He continues a block through and through and drives his man into the ground even after the play is almost dead. And that's kind of what I liked about him. He can handle those downhill blocks. He can neutralize opponents when he has a good angle. But powerful players, sometimes if you have a big guy, maybe like a Leonard Williams, someone who can overpower him, he might get beat on occasion on the interior. So that is a problem. He might have to add a little bit more upper body mass or a little bit more a center of gravity and just lower body strength. But according to NFL.com, and this is Daniel Jeremiah, Lance Zierlein, sorry. He said his strengths, he has desired size for an NFL center. He has started at both guard and center, hangs in and rides with defenders even when off balance. He displays adequate power in gallop step on combo blocks. He hustles out of ahead of the action in screen game. So he's a fast guy. Obviously, he has the effort. His weaknesses, lifted and controlled by quality two-gappers. He can be a little lazy with initial hand placement, fails to corral and control with outside hand, won't give run game much push at point of attack, fails to get his blocks centered up effectively, major protection concerns as a guard, below average core and mirror quickness and protection duties. A lot of his weaknesses, which do sound serious to some degree, are mostly fundamental based, which is why he's an undrafted free agent. He seems like he just doesn't have the fundamentals down. And I think the Giants with Robert Sale, their new offensive line coordinator, can hammer this home maybe, can help him in that developmental stage in terms of his fundamentals and whatnot. He was an All-American at a high school, Under Armour All-American. He was a number 6 rated, I think, center in the country as a prospect going to college. And he has the tangible traits. He just doesn't have the fundamentals down. So I think that's something the Giants will work on him with. He might be a special teams guy to start his career, maybe a practice squatter. But I think he's a guy we're looking to develop long term, maybe a year, 2 years, 3 years down the line. We'll see him eventually make his way to the starting unit, but I don't see him as like an instant impact day one starter by any means. But just a guy to keep your eye on, see what his development is like, see how he progresses. He's a tough guy, a hog molly. He plays through injuries. I like what he offers in terms of tangible traits, but again, he's lacking a little bit in the fundamentals category, which can take time to develop, especially once you get to the NFL level. So I think that's where he will end up spending most of his time in terms of progression. So Anthony, what are you thinking about Brett Hedgy? And are you interested in him at all as a potential, solution on the offensive line for the future?
Yeah, I think Brett Hedgy is exactly what you look for in an undrafted free agent offensive lineman. As you mentioned, a guy who has the intangible traits, desired size for an NFL center. He's got all of that, like the size, the strength, the speed. Like, he has the tools to be a good offensive lineman. He just doesn't really know how to play the position that well. And that's kind of what you want from an undrafted guy. You just want someone that you can mold into something. You can mold into a good player. So I think that's what they got with Brett Hedgy, and I think that's pretty good. Quality depth, absolutely. And I think, no doubt he makes the practice squad because he does have those traits, and that's something that you just want to develop and practice with and tool into something. But I think that this guy low-key has a shot to make the final 53-man roster as a backup center. He has started at both guard and center at UF, so he has positional versatility and he has experience playing those two positions, which is huge for the Giants because they're kind of in need of a new offensive guard. So if this guy can maybe develop into something, this is probably similar stuff that people said about Nick Gates when the Giants drafted him as an undrafted free agent, right? They probably said, oh, this is a guy who has all the tools and the tenacity, the toughness, has all the tangible traits, right? But you just got to mold him into something. And now the Giants did, and he's our starting center. So I think that's what you look at with Brett Hedgy here. I'm not saying that necessarily one day he will become a starter on the Giants offensive line, but I'm saying he could be a quality depth piece. If someone goes down with an injury, okay, at least we still have Brett Hedgy, who's a pretty nice hog molly with some nice traits in there that can go in and play. And I think that's what you're looking at with any undrafted free agent. That's kind of what you're looking for. You're just hoping that they turn into really good depth pieces. And I think that Brett Hedgy was a pretty nice find by the Giants. Did play in the SEC, did go up against guys like Azeez Ojulari. I watched some clips where he went up against him. So I really do like Brett Hedgy as a UDFA signing, and I'm excited to see exactly what he does this offseason with the Giants and where he ends up being placed, whether he's on the practice squad, whether he does make the final roster. Either way, though, I think that he will stick around with the Giants and continue to develop under their coaching staff and continue to be pretty good depth for them. So Brett Hedgy, I'm pretty high on him. I like him a lot, and I think he's got some good tools and potential to be a pretty good player. I watched this one clip, I'll throw this in there, which I'm sure it's going to be in the video, where he was blocking in the running game and drove a defensive tackle back like 11 yards and put him in the dirt. That was awesome. Of course, Dave Gettleman definitely saw that and said, okay, I need this guy on my roster. That guy's a hog molly, right? And I think that's what you saw with Brett Hedgy, that hog molly, that mentality that Dave Gettleman loves. I think that's why he ultimately was signed by the Giants, and I think that's why he will stick around with the Giants, whether it's on the practice squad or on the bottom of the roster. I think that's really where he will fit in, and he's got potential to develop into maybe something a little bit more than that as his career goes on.
Yeah, I mean that's pretty much all it is. You can hope for an undrafted free agent to be maximized. And Gettleman's managed to find a couple of gems in the past. Andrew Norwell being one of them, Nick Gates obviously being one of them. Every now and then he plucks a gem out of nowhere, and you're like, who the hell is that guy? But again, Kadarius Toney knows Brett Hedgy, both on Florida, so maybe he has a little insight into his strengths and weaknesses and whatnot. So that's an interesting one to keep an eye on. Just Brett Hedgy's development long term. I think that's more of what we're trying to get across. But those are the three players that we have on our kind of our docket to keep an eye on that maybe are being underlooked by some. Of course, Azeez Ojulari and Kadarius Toney, those are our primary guys, and I feel they will be impact playmakers on day one. But the rest of them up for debate. Obviously, Eliah Smith, Aaron Robinson, 3rd and 4th round picks. They have a lot of potential and upside that could be transitioned over to the NFL in this upcoming season. So hopefully the Giants can manage to maximize their talents, because we know that the Giants don't like to draft guys that can't make an impact year one. They like everybody to have some sort of hand in the game, whether it's on the starting team, a reserve, or on the special teams. You never know. So that's kind of where I see this going, and we'll keep an eye on those three guys for you and let you know how they develop over the course of the next couple of months and a couple of years for the most part, because we are not going anywhere. We'll be around for quite some time. So guys, I hope you enjoyed this little breakdown of all of these different players, Aaron Robinson, Eliah Smith, and Brett Hedgy. We'll keep you updated over the weekend of what is going on in terms with the rookie minicamp, if there's anything that stands out. And then on Sunday, hopefully we'll get a video out kind of recapping everything that was said about rookie camp and maybe some interesting things and tidbits along the way. So as always, once at the fireside, always at the fireside, my friends. Fireside Giants is here to get you guys all the content you need about your team. And make sure to hit that subscribe button below on YouTube, Apple, and Spotify. As always, my friends, thank you so much. Have a fantastic weekend, and we'll catch you guys on the next episode.